In the beginning, there were no cities, no civilizations, no written words carved into stone. There was only a vast and ancient earth, stretching into horizons and touched by human footsteps. But long before our world filled with roads and empires, something remarkable began to unfold, an evolutionary story millions of years in the making. It began with creatures who looked nothing like us, yet carried within them the first spark of what would one day become humanity. In the shifting grasslands of Africa, where forests shrank and predators ruled the plains, an ape-like ancestor made a decision that changed the fate of the planet. It stood up. From that moment, the world would never be the same. For standing upright did more than lift a body, it lifted the possibility of what humans could one day become. This is the story of how we transformed from vulnerable primates into the most adaptable species the Earth has ever seen. It is a story shaped by firelight flickering in ancient nights, by hands that carved stone into tools, and by minds that slowly awakened to curiosity, imagination, and connection. For nearly 6 million years, evolution sculpted us, shaping our bones, expanding our brains, and guiding our journey across continents. Countless human species walked this planet before us, each leaving behind a fragment of the story, each vanishing into extinction while we continued forward. Our origins are not simple. They are a mosaic of triumphs, losses, migrations, and miracles, etched into the continents we crossed and the DNA we carry. And yet, at every moment of this long journey, our survival was never guaranteed. We faced supervolcanoes that blackened the skies, ice ages that froze entire worlds, and rival human species stronger than us. At times, our numbers were so small that humanity could have disappeared forever. But something in us, the spark of communication, cooperation, creativity pushed us beyond the boundaries of instinct. We learned to share food, to build shelter, to paint our dreams on cave walls, to transform fear into knowledge and tools into power. Slowly, step by step, we became the storytellers of Earth. This is not just the journey of Homo sapiens. It is the story of every ancestor who walked before us, every struggle that shaped us, every discovery that carried us forward. It is the complete story of our existence, a story written not in legends, but in fossils, landscapes, and memories older than civilization itself. This is the story of how we became human. In the deep silence of ancient Africa, long before cities, kingdoms, or even the idea of humanity existed, the world was ruled by forests and rivers, by predators that slipped through the tall grasses, and by early primates who swung through canopies that seemed endless. But the earth was changing. Slowly, the climate dried, the trees thinned, and the environment pushed life toward a new direction. It was here, around 7 million years ago, that an early creature, Sahelanthropus chidensis, lived along the shrinking forests of what is now Chad. It walked partly on 2 legs and partly on 4, caught between the past and the future. It didn't know it, but every step it took was the beginning of a journey that would reshape Earth itself. Life at this time was harsh. Survival depended on instincts honed by millions of years of evolution. The world was filled with saber-toothed hunters, crocodiles longer than a car, and hyenas with bone-crushing jaws. But walking upright gave these early ancestors something extraordinary: the ability to see farther. They could scan the horizon, spot danger early, and explore new landscapes others could not. It freed their hands to carry food, tools, and eventually ideas. This simple shift, standing up, became one of the greatest turning points in the story of life. Sahelanthropus did not build tools or speak languages. It did not dream of futures or carve stories into stone. But without those first uncertain steps into the open world, the chain of evolution leading to humans might never have begun. Every human alive today carries the echoes of that ancient creature, a distant spark buried deep within our bones. That spark was the first whisper of what humanity would one day become. As the forests retreated and the African plains expanded, new species emerged to embrace this changing world with remarkable adaptation. Among them was Australopithecus, the southern ape, whose fossils have been found across eastern and southern Africa. One of their most famous representatives, known as Lucy, walked the earth 3.2 million years ago. Unlike the creatures before her, Lucy walked fully upright, her feet shaped for long journeys and her hands free to explore. She was small, barely the height of a modern child, yet she carried within her the blueprint of every human who would come after. These early walkers lived in a world of constant danger. Leopards, lions, giant snakes, and massive birds of prey all roamed the plains. Yet Australopithecus did something remarkable. They adapted not by brute strength, but by awareness. They formed small groups, stayed alert, cared for one another, and learned to recognize patterns in the world around them. Their bodies were primitive, but their coordination and social bonds were evolving. Though they did not create complex tools, they may have used simple stones or sticks to dig roots or crack open nuts. Their diet expanded as they learned to survive in both forests and open lands. Every adaptation strengthened their connection to the environment, making them resilient in ways earlier species were not. Lucy's people would never know fire, never build shelters, and never speak languages. But they mastered the art of walking, that long, patient endurance that allowed them to travel new distances, discover new habitats, and explore new worlds. Each footstep of Australopithecus pressed deeper into the possibility of humanity. They were not yet human, but they had taken the most important step humans would ever take. They committed themselves to the open earth, and the open earth shaped them into the forerunners of our kind. Around 2.4 million years ago, a new species appeared across eastern Africa, a species whose hands would change the destiny of the world. They were Homo habilis, the handyman, named not for their strength or size, but for their ingenuity. For the first time in history, a creature deliberately shaped stones into tools. These old iron tools, sharp flakes used to cut meat, crack bones, and carve wood, marked the dawn of technology. Though simple, these tools represent the earliest human spark of creativity and problem-solving. Homo habilis lived during an age of climate instability. Seasons fluctuated violently, rainfall changed dramatically. Forests became grasslands and then forests again. While other animals perished, Homo habilis thrived. Their intelligence allowed them to adapt, to shift diets, and to explore new food sources. They scavenged carcasses hunted by lions, using their sharp stone flakes to cut meat quickly before predators returned. They learned to protect one another and shared food within their groups. Life demanded cooperation, and they responded by becoming more social than anything before them. Their brains were larger than Australopithecus, but still far from modern humans. Yet inside those growing minds lay the first sparks of planning and memory. They began to understand patterns, the migration of herds, the movement of seasons, the behavior of predators. Their growing intelligence allowed them to survive challenges that would have defeated their ancestors. Homo habilis did not yet control fire, nor did they create rituals or art, but by shaping tools, they shaped themselves. Technology pushed evolution to accelerate. Their hands learned precision. Their minds learned problem-solving. Their communities learned cooperation. With the creation of the first stone tools, Homo habilis opened a new chapter in the story of life, a chapter where intelligence, not instinct, became the key to survival. Nearly 2 million years ago, a new human species emerged who would redefine what it meant to be human. Homo erectus had long legs, strong bodies, and endurance unmatched by any creature of their time. They became the first humans capable of running long distances, crossing vast landscapes, and exploring beyond Africa. Their footprints stretch across Asia, Europe, and Indonesia, the first global travelers in human history. With larger brains and more advanced tools, Homo erectus transformed from opportunistic scavengers into skilled hunters. They crafted Acheulean hand axes, symmetrical stone tools that required planning, skill, and creativity. These tools were universal, found across continents, a sign that Homo erectus carried not just bodies, but culture across the world. But their greatest achievement was fire. For the first time, humans could control flame, to cook food, to stay warm, to keep predators away. Fire softened meat, unlocking more calories, and fueling further brain growth. Around campfires, early humans gathered, communicated through gestures, and formed deeper bonds. Fire was not just a tool. It was a turning point that lifted humanity out of the darkness of instinct and into the light of innovation. Homo erectus lived longer than any other human species, surviving nearly 1.5 million years, longer than Homo sapiens have existed. They adapted to deserts, forests, mountains, and coastlines. They endured ice ages and droughts. Generation after generation, they pushed the boundaries of the known world. They did not create art, write stories, or build civilizations, but they laid the foundations for everything humans would one day accomplish. They were explorers, builders, hunters, fire masters, the first humans to look beyond the horizon and walk toward the unknown. Their journey carved the first global map of humanity. About 600,000 years ago, a powerful new species emerged in Africa and Europe, Homo heidelbergensis. Taller, stronger, and more intelligent than their predecessors, they lived in organized groups, hunted expertly, and built shelters more complex than anything before them. They carried wooden spears, some found preserved in German peat, with craftsmanship so precise they resemble modern hunting weapons. These were humans who planned, strategized, and cooperated with remarkable depth. Homo heidelbergensis were the great branching point of human history. From them came the Neanderthals in Europe, the Denisovans across Asia, and Homo sapiens in Africa. They were the common ancestor, the root from which the human family tree expanded across continents. Their expanding brains allowed them to understand the rhythms of nature, track prey over long distances, and teach skills across generations. Knowledge was no longer just instinct, it was inherited through culture. They lived in harsh Ice Age environments, facing cold winters and dangerous predators like saber-toothed cats and giant bears. Yet they not only survived, they mastered their landscapes. Their shelters offered protection against the elements. Their tools grew more advanced, transitioning from simple stone flakes to carefully crafted blades. They hunted large game such as elephants and rhinos through coordinated group tactics, a glimpse of the teamwork that would define human survival. Though we cannot hear their voices, their actions speak through archaeology. They buried their dead in simple pits. They cared for injured members, showing empathy and responsibility. These were the early signs of human emotion and social complexity, foundations of compassion that would later shape civilizations. Homo heidelbergensis did not witness the future they helped create. Yet through them, the human world began to divide into new species, each shaped by geography, climate, and time. Their legacy lives within every human alive today. As Ice Age winds swept across Europe and Asia, two remarkable species emerged: Neanderthals and Denisovans, humanity's closest relatives. Neanderthals, living in Europe and West Asia, developed powerful bodies, broad noses, and thick muscles adapted to extreme cold. They crafted stone tools with astonishing precision, created shelters, and mastered fire. They hunted mammoths and giant deer with skill, surviving environments that would challenge modern explorers. Far from the stereotype of primitive, Neanderthals were intelligent, social, and deeply connected to their world. Across Asia, another mysterious species thrived, the Denisovans. Known only from fragments, a finger bone, a tooth, a jaw, their genetic legacy reveals a vast presence across the continent. They interbred with early Homo sapiens, leaving traces of their DNA in modern populations, especially in Melanesia and Australia. Denisovan DNA still influences human traits today, including altitude adaptations found in Tibetan people. Neanderthals showed signs of symbolic thinking. They buried their dead, placed pigments in caves, and may have worn simple ornaments. Their social groups cared for injured members, sometimes for years. This compassion reflects a deep humanity shared across species. They spoke using vocal structures similar to ours, and may have communicated with complexity. Yet both Neanderthals and Denisovans disappeared around 40,000 years ago. Their extinction remains one of history's great mysteries. Climate shifts, small populations, and competition with Homo sapiens all played a role, but they did not vanish completely. Their genes live within us, woven into our DNA, reminders that we are not alone in our origins. For tens of thousands of years, multiple human species walked the earth together, sharing landscapes, tools, and even families. Their story is not separate from ours. They are part of who we are. Around 300,000 years ago, in the heart of Africa, a new human species appeared, one with a lighter frame, a rounded skull, and a brain capable of imagination beyond survival. These were Homo sapiens, the species that would one day reshape the entire planet. Their arrival did not mark the end of evolution, but the beginning of something far more powerful: culture, creativity, and complex thought. Homo sapiens did not simply survive, they innovated. They created new types of tools, using bone, antler, and stone with increasing finesse. They learned to fish, to gather plants with precision, to hunt with strategy rather than strength. They crafted clothing using animal hides, allowing them to explore colder regions. Their communities grew more complex, with shared responsibilities, long-term planning, and emotional depth. But their most important transformation was cognitive. They began to think symbolically, to see the world not only as it was, but as it could be. They carved patterns into ochre, painted animals on cave walls, and created the earliest forms of jewelry. These symbols were more than decoration. They were expressions of identity, memory, and belief. Language flourished, allowing information to pass across generations, tribes, and landscapes. Their ability to cooperate in large groups set them apart. While other species relied on small family units, Homo sapiens formed tribes, alliances, and networks of trade. Ideas spread, innovation spread, stories spread. This web of communication gave them an extraordinary advantage as they prepared to leave Africa. Homo sapiens were not the strongest humans, nor the fastest, nor even the most cold adapted. But they possessed something unmatched, a brain wired for imagination, connection, and possibility. That imagination would carry them across continents and eventually transform the world. Around 70,000 years ago, small bands of Homo sapiens began leaving Africa, not in a single wave, but in many journeys over thousands of years. These were not explorers in the modern sense. They were families following rivers, coastlines, and herds, unaware that their footsteps would eventually cover every corner of the earth. Their first crossing took them through the Arabian Peninsula, a region that was once green, filled with lakes, grasslands, and animals. From there, humans followed the coast of the Indian Ocean, walking for generations along shorelines rich with fish and shellfish. This coastal migration brought them to South Asia, Southeast Asia, and eventually Australia, making early Homo sapiens some of the greatest navigators of ancient history. Another branch headed north into the Middle East, where they encountered Neanderthals. These meetings were not always violent. Interbreeding occurred, and their children carried a blend of genes that still exists in people today. With time, Homo sapiens expanded into Europe, replacing Neanderthals but also inheriting aspects of their resilience. Across Asia, humans adapted to deserts, monsoons, freezing winds, and towering mountains. By 20,000 years ago, they reached Siberia and crossed the Bering Land Bridge into the Americas, entering landscapes filled with mammoths, giant sloths, and saber-toothed cats. From the Arctic tundra to the tropical Amazon, they adapted with intelligence, cooperation, and extraordinary endurance. This migration was the most significant journey in human history. It was not planned, not guided by maps, but driven by curiosity, hunger, climate, and opportunity. By the end of it, humans had become a global species, diverse in culture, appearance, and language, yet united by a single origin. The world was no longer a mystery. Humanity had claimed every environment Earth offered. Many human species once walked the Earth, yet only one remains. The survival of Homo sapiens was not guaranteed. Neanderthals were stronger, Denisovans were better adapted to extreme environments. Homo erectus had survived far longer than any human species. But Homo sapiens possessed a unique combination of traits that allowed them not only to survive but to flourish. Their greatest advantage was cooperation on a scale no species had achieved before. While other humans lived in small family groups, Homo sapiens formed large networks connected by alliances, trade, and shared knowledge. When one group discovered a new tool, hunting technique, or medicinal plant, the idea spread rapidly. Innovation became collective rather than individual. Sapiens also excelled in creativity. They crafted tools with multiple components, spears with stone tips, bows and arrows, fishing hooks, sewing needles. These inventions allowed them to exploit environments no other human could. Clothing helped them endure cold climates. Watercraft helped them cross seas. Fire helped them survive freezing nights. But perhaps their most defining trait was adaptability. While other species were strongly adapted to specific climates, sapiens could adjust to deserts, jungles, mountains, and ice fields. Their diets were flexible, their shelters varied, their strategies constantly changing. This flexibility allowed them to thrive during climate shifts that devastated other species. Communication further strengthened their survival. Complex language allowed them to organize large hunts, warn of danger, and teach intricate skills. Stories passed through generations preserved wisdom, creating a memory that outlived individuals. Evolution did not stop when humans invented farming or writing. It continues within us, in our bones, our blood, our immunity, and our cultures. The story of human evolution is not ancient history, it is unfolding every second. Skin color evolved as humans migrated across the planet. Those in high UV regions near the equator developed darker skin to protect against sun damage. Those in northern climates evolved lighter skin to absorb more sunlight for vitamin D. These adaptations happened over thousands of years but remain visible today. Lactose tolerance is another recent change. For most of human history, adults could not digest milk. But when herding cultures in Europe, Africa, and the Middle East began drinking animal milk, a genetic mutation spread that allowed adults to digest lactose. Today, this trait varies widely across populations, a living reminder of how culture shapes biology. Resistance to diseases also shaped our evolution. Populations exposed to malaria developed genetic defenses like sickle cell traits. Others developed immunity to ancient plagues. These adaptations reflect the constant dialogue between humans and the environment. But the most significant evolution today is cultural, not biological. Languages change rapidly. Technology reshapes human behavior. Global movement blends populations that were once isolated for tens of thousands of years. Human evolution is now guided less by natural selection and more by knowledge, innovation, and culture. We are the most connected, adaptive, and influential species Earth has ever seen, yet still bound to the same evolutionary forces that shaped our ancestors. The story continues, written in the choices we make and the world we create. In the end, the story of human evolution is not simply the tale of bones buried in ancient soil or tools left beside forgotten hearths. It is the story of us, of every heartbeat that carries the echo of millions of years. Of every breath shaped by ancestors who survived storms we cannot imagine. Of every thought made possible by countless minds that flickered before ours. We are not separate from them. We are their continuation, the living chapter of a journey that began long before the first word was spoken or the first map was drawn across the earth. As we stand in the modern world, surrounded by cities of steel and glass illuminated by the glow of technologies our ancestors could never conceive, we carry within us the same ancient instincts, the same courage, and the same curiosity that once guided small bands of early humans across vast plains under starlit skies. Their challenges may have been carved from ice and fire, while ours are shaped by choices and consequences that affect an entire planet. Yet the thread that binds us remains unchanged, the desire to understand, to adapt, to create, and to endure. When we look back across the immense span of our evolution, we see not a straight line, but a branching tree filled with species that rose and fell, each contributing something precious to the story of survival. We are the only ones left, not because we were destined to be, but because we learned to work together, to imagine futures beyond danger, and to share knowledge across generations. That ability, to connect, to teach, to dream, is our greatest inheritance. And so, as the long arc of evolution bends toward the future, the story of humanity is still unfolding. We are the authors now, shaping what comes next. With every step we take, every discovery we make, and every choice we decide, we write the next chapter of a journey that began millions of years ago, a journey that reminds us of how far we have come, and how much more there is still to learn about the extraordinary species we became.